guys, welcome to Field Notes, the infrastructure podcast. I'm Abby Crawford, your host, and I am sitting here with the co-founders of FiberCom, Brendan West and Ryan Sikes. So before we get started on what FiberCom is and the nitty gritty, let's meet our co-founders. So Brendan, let's start with you. Fill me in on your 20 years of experience and just what led you to FiberCom.
Yeah, thanks, Abby. So I appreciate that. Glad to be on Field Notes, excited for this opportunity. So I started, about 20 years ago, started on a drill crew, started with a shovel in my hand and worked my way up through field supervisors on construction side for fiber builds, project management, a little bit of the engineering side, and just kind of fell in love with what we were trying to accomplish in the industry and led me down the path to where we are kind of today.
Awesome. Ryan?
Let's see, I started on the line crew in 2005, and I went from the line crew to being a cable maintenance tech, to being a service technician, to being a wire center engineer, then the DC power engineer for 12 states, and then got into joint use, and I stayed in joint use for about 11 years. Worked my way up until I was the manager of the joint use for the nation for a large ISP.
Very cool. So between the two of you, we have 40 years of experience. What brought y'all together and made you decide that FiberCom was a must-do?
Yeah, so good question. Gives some good backstory. So I was part of a different firm. We had a project that was with a large ISP. Ryan was part of that ISP at the time and came across his background, thought it was strategic to find someone that was coming from our customer, but try to bring them onto the engineering side that had, a lot of knowledge of how it operates, how it works over there that could assist us to provide the best service for that customer. Came across Ryan's background, asked him if it would be something he'd be interested in. And after we spoke and had a couple meetings, he became the program director to run that specific project. And over time, after our time ran out with that previous firm, we decided to start FiberCom. We saw kind of a gap in the industry where we didn't see true partners to assist on some of the builds. So we kind of put our brains together to try to create a firm that is a real partner to bring back the true engineering of the world for telecom. And it's kind of where FiberCom kind of came from.
Ryan, do you have your side of the story that you want to add?
No, I was looking for a career change coming from a large ISP. Yeah, I wasn't in the right frame of mind where I had been, earlier in my career, and I needed a change. And when Brendan came knocking on the door, I thought about the opportunity. We talked, and I got excited about it, and it got me back to one of the career paths that I had sought after ever since I was in college to get back to engineering, and it was pure engineering. It wasn't anything that we weren't chasing. We weren't chasing project by project. We were just working on, pure fiber build engineering. And that's something that I've had a great passion for. And, when our time was running low on that other company and we, decided we were wanting to try to do our own thing, it was a good blend to him and I to come together and create something that's, pure from an engineering standpoint. And then the innovation that we've done since has been awesome.
Yeah.
Just kind of a personal, I want to know question is, from the moment that you guys decided on FiberCom to when it launched, what was that time span that you guys just made everything really happen?
I think when the time frame ended, within 72 hours, we created the name and the LLC and officially launched it within 15 days after we had all the legal, the articles of incorporation, getting everything kind of in line, the emails, the domain. So it was about just over 2 weeks. We kind of created this thing out of thin air, and today it's it is what it is.
How were you feeling in those, like in that time that you were, what are we doing? Or were you like, this is going to be, what were your feelings during that time?
Oh, it was a huge leap. It
Yeah.
was because we had toyed with the idea when we were at the other company, but we didn't put any pen to paper or do anything serious. We talked, and when we decided we were going to try to do it, then we were talking about where we're going to get funding from, how are we going to get kind of things off the ground, and then we had a conversation with a couple different people, and they were like, just bootstrap it, just bootstrap it. You don't need any funding from anybody else.
Yeah.
And so we shot it in motion and got it going.
So from that point, the launch date until now, what have been some of the greatest accomplishments of FiberCom and SkyCom?
Man, you know, I think what we were able to accomplish in a short time, we were brought in on a subcontract basis to do some fielding for a large construction vendor that had some issues with previous field engineering firms and just weren't getting the results they needed. So we started with a couple smaller projects to kind of test the water and our capabilities, and in just over 4 months, 3.5 months, I would say, we did over 4 million feet of field inspection for proposed aerial construction and for to go down the line of permitting. So it's that was kind of a main factor and driver where we kind of were like, yeah, this can work. And it was not expected, when you bootstrap something and you're just starting out, I think the one benefit Ryan and I had working for us was our industry knowledge and experience of being in it as long as we have. So I think that was a driving factor that we're able to accomplish what we were able to in just a short time, and also to be able to obtain a contract at that size so early on in the company's start.
And you mentioned how much you guys did in that amount of time. For anybody like myself that's not in this industry and doesn't really understand how long something is supposed to take, can you give a comparison of the time you guys were completing projects opposed to the regular amount of time that it takes to complete projects?
Sure. One of the particular wire centers that we were working on was 800,000 feet. 800,000 feet. You have to go out and you have to take field notes. You have to go back and draw. You've got to clear the violations from a make ready perspective. You have to go all the way through all the steps and the processes. Fielding itself takes anywhere, there's something that size, 4 to 8 weeks, just depending on the terrain in the area. And then you turn around and then you have to spend about another month and a half annotating and getting that stuff, kicked out to your customer. So, I mean, to turn it around that fast, it's a lead. I mean, that's in small class of companies.
Wow. So with accomplishments, of course, there comes challenges. Can you guys explain or share any challenges that you had in the last few months?
From my point of view, challenges, I think it's anything as a newer business and as business owners, it's financials, right? It's a fluctuation going up and down. The one thing that we always want to make sure is that we pay our employees and also pay, if we utilize subcontractors any way, shape, or form, we pay them on time. And it's hard because there's a variable out there that we do work for a customer. It could be the construction side that brought us in as a sub, or a customer that is an ISP and we have a contract with them is getting paid on time as well. So it's that magic area that's in the middle of like making sure our customers are paying us on time so we can also keep up and pay, our employees and subs in the same instance. So that is always a big one. Just like anyone with families and homes and their own bills, it's exactly the same as within a business. But also there's that variable of an uncontrolled entity, and that is a human being, because you don't know what someone's going to do, how they're going to do it, how they interpret what you're trying to accomplish, or request of a scope of work. and even communication with the customer, making sure we know exactly what they need us to get in the field. It's difficult. So you gotta kind of read between the lines, ask the right questions, and hope and make sure that the people you're putting in the field, are doing it correctly, and that they're showing up on time and they're being safe, because it's not just collecting data. There's so much more of it when you're in the field, and having someone on the side of a busy road, you have safety concerns, you have accuracy. There's so many factors out there that play a part in it, and it's stressful. But at the end of the day, it still needs to get done, and it's our job to make sure that it gets done timely, correctly, safely, and just being accomplished to the full expectation of our customer.
Would you say that was like the biggest hurdle, is just taking on all that stress, and that there's so many parts of it that you didn't realize you would have to take on at the beginning?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be hands in every single aspect of the business, and not from a perspective of micromanaging or, you know, overseeing over everything. You touch every point of the business. I mean, from the billing to the HR to the taxes to, you know, just everything. I mean, there's no rock that you don't overturn while you're, you know, owning or running a business. It's not easy. It's challenging, and it has pitfalls and roadblocks, and then you have to manage personalities and all the things. It's tough.
And our home life, like,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
honest, it's a leap of faith. I think we got to give a lot of props and appreciation to our wives and
yeah,
family, because
it's definitely.
it is stressful.
Yeah.
And without the support of, both our amazing wives that, are a driving force and factor to support us, it does get stressful, because our stress from the day to day, we work from home. There's no reason for us to have a brick and mortar, just in this, the technology we have today. So, we don't leave the house and let it just come off our shoulders. Like, we're at home, and the fact that we're still married and we still have our wife next to us, I guess we're doing something kind of right.
Yeah.
Amen.
One thing that I love about FiberCom, and I'm sure others can appreciate, is how you guys are always 2, 3, 4 steps ahead with the industry and where things are going. How are you guys staying ahead?
So I think it's not just staying ahead, it's looking at what we have at our fingertips for technology, innovation, and which way we can utilize things that you think outside the box. Everyone kind of gets horse blinders, and what we've seen probably in the industry over the years is that we've done it the same way. Why change it? Like,
Right.
is there a different tool that we could use? Is there a different technology that can help drive more accuracy or speed? And the one thing that Ryan and I think has kind of touched on and has been a benefit and has kind of driven us into a different level is our subsidiary Skycom, utilizing drone technology. It's everyone knows about drones, and you can go buy one at Walmart for $20 and have fun with it. But the commercial size drones are a little bit different. You have extremely accurate pinpoint positioning of where the drone is within the metadata from, using a GPS location, RTK, that will show where the drone is specifically. The high resolution camera that's attached to it, the payload to take high detailed cameras, is something that was not being fully utilized within our space. There are companies that have used it. They're using in certain ways in our industry, but we kind of looked at it and said, why don't we use this in all aspects for underground land surveys to help do design and permitting for underground routes, and then also pole inspection and pre and post construction for capturing data on a utility pole, attachment heights, measurements. And I think that aspect right there is where we kind of differentiate ourselves from our competitors, is using the technology that we have available today and harnessing that to bring in a product that is going to be much better than traditional boots on the ground. And at the end of the day, I'm not saying that's not a good option, because to be honest, that's how we kind of got it started, and
Right.
it was utilized and it was great. But we wanted to see how can we be more accurate and also faster for our customers.
Yeah.
And the drone is what's separating us, that we can go out. And for example, we had another project that was about the same from the one Ryan was just talking about. That project within 13 days and capture all that data. And it was 50% aerial and 50% underground. And the fact that we could do that in 13 days and capture that data versus the 4 to 6 weeks and pushing 8 weeks with traditional boots on the ground with a height stick is where we see an avenue that's kind of innovating in the next generation for engineering moving forward within the telecom space and even power and distribution.
Ryan, do you have any?
No, that's good.
Yeah, he covered that.
Yeah.
Cool. I know that, as everyone knows, AI, IoT, that is on the rise for just about every industry. Where do you see that in the telecom industry, and how does that affect you guys?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity in softwares. There's a lot of opportunity in data analytics. There's a lot of things that you can look at from the perspective of how are you being billed today? Where's the best penetration for fiber distribution? Where are you going to get the best ROI for what you're trying to install? And I think those are some important tools that not a lot of companies are using. They're going back through and doing the old ways of data analytics, which there's no problem with those. They're just a little bit more invasive, more involved. So using AI and being able to process data in a way that probably we're not thinking about today, and leaning on a little bit of a machine learning to do it, I think it's going to help the industry. From just from an overall standpoint.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Brendan and Ryan, this has been such a great conversation. Before we wrap up, just from each of you, a piece of advice for our viewers, whether it's about connectivity, leadership, or life. What do you got for them?
I'll let you hit that one off first.
One of the biggest things that I've learned throughout the entire creative process of FiberCom and Skycom has been, when you're making decisions, you have to make decisions based on what you're going to bring ROI back on. But you can't spend a lot of time in the discussion phase trying to get the right answer, because you're not ever going to have the right answer, and sometimes it's worth the leap. I mean, it's just like us leaving the previous company and leaping into this. Like, it was a daring leap. It was something that there's not too many people I know that have done it and have tried it, and have been successful at it. I mean, that's the other part is, how do you make that leap and then be successful? And the scariest part is jumping and leaping into it. And I'd implore customers, or potential customers out there, like, just because you've done things the same way all the time, you take a bit of a leap. It's not that big a risk at the end of the day, because you can always pull the parachute cord and bail out. So take chances on companies like FiberCom and Skycom. See what we can offer. See how we can better your business and better your model.
Yeah. And, well said. I think that's 100% spot on. I think what a lot of people have tried to do in our industry is reinvent wheels. You don't need to reinvent a wheel. You might be able to add a spoke or two that is innovating in a different way and thinking outside the box. Like I said earlier, everyone has kind of horse blinders and they're at a 10 to 20,000 foot level. Like, take a step back and look at it as a whole, organically. Like, just look at the entire project. And, like you said, take some leaps, take some chances, because there's a reason why we've had some issues in our industry between permitting, construction, engineering itself, design. We get into these rhythms of it's been done this way, or we hire people because they came from X company and we like what they've done over here. Let's try to replicate it. You don't need to replicate what other people have done. Create your own path. create what you're going to do and how you can change, the narrative on the digital divide, rural builds, even in urban environments. Just you don't need to copy and paste. You can sprinkle in a little bit of experience and expertise that you've seen that's been successful, but make it your own. And don't let anyone tell you you can't, because we were told multiple times, you can't do this. This is the way it's done. This is how it has to be done. And that's not true, because if that was the case, we wouldn't be sitting here and we
Right.
wouldn't be where we are today. So, you know, it's cheesy, but just be yourself, be authentic, and just go get it. We live in the United States of America. This is the greatest country in the world. Nothing on any other country, but there's a reason why people come here, and it's these type of opportunities that you have, and we're extremely blessed to be where we are and for what we've been able to accomplish in a short time. So I just say go get it and take it.
Very cool, guys. That's it for today. Make sure that if you enjoyed this chat, you follow us on Instagram at fieldnotes.podcast, connect with us on LinkedIn, and subscribe to our channel. That's it from the field. Stay grounded.
First one in the books.